Get your hands where I can see them.
Sir, I didn't do anything.
Those were the first words spoken the day. Officer Ray Collins made the biggest mistake of his career, and the moment that would destroy everything he thought he knew about power. Cameron Brooks was a 16-year-old kid who didn't bother anybody. Quiet, smart, the type who minded his business. He lived with his dad in a modest home just outside Maple Ridge, Tennessee, a peaceful rural town with more church steeples than streetlights. But Cameron wasn't just any kid. He was the son of Elias Brooks, one of the most respected and feared FBI division leaders in the entire Southeast. But nobody in Maple Ridge knew that, because Elias kept his work quiet, protected, separate from his son's life. And that secrecy was about to save Cameron and destroy Officer Collins. It was late afternoon on a Saturday, the type of summer evening where heat hangs low, the breeze carries the smell of cut grass, and teenagers ride their bikes to the gas station for sodas. Cameron had just finished basketball practice at the community center. He wore simple gym shorts, a backpack over one shoulder, and headphones around his neck. He wasn't speeding. He wasn't trespassing. He wasn't even playing music out loud. He was simply walking home. That's when Officer Collins spotted him. Collins had a reputation, a quiet one but real. The kind of cop who made traffic stops for looking, suspicious. The type who believed authority came before respect. The type who saw threats where there were none, especially if those threats were young and black. He had received a vague dispatch alert earlier about a possible vehicle break-in near the shopping strip. No description, no details, just enough for Collins to convince himself he had a target. When he saw Cameron walking alone, backpack slung over his shoulder, he hit the brakes. His cruiser slid to a stop beside the sidewalk. Cameron paused, confused. The officer stepped out slowly, hand resting on his holster. "Hey, you, stop right there." Cameron pulled off his headphones. "Sir, did I do something?" "What are you doing in this area?" Collins demanded. "Walking home." "From where?" "Basketball practice." Collins scoffed. "Where's the car you broke into?" Cameron blinked. "What?" "I said." Collins stepped closer. "Where's the vehicle you were trying to get into?" "I wasn't trying to get into anything," Cameron said calmly. "Sir, I literally just left the gym." "You can call—" Collins cut him off. "Hands on your head, now!" "For what?" "You match the description." "There was no description," Cameron whispered. Knowing only the officer could hear, that pissed Collins off. He grabbed Cameron's arm and yanked him forward. "Hey, stop!" Cameron shouted, stumbling. A passing driver slowed down. A woman on her porch stood up. Cameron's voice cracked. "Sir, please, I didn't do anything." But Collins already had him against the hood of the cruiser. Collins radioed in. "Dispatch, I have a potential juvenile suspect in custody." "For what offense?" Dispatch asked. "Investigation," Collins snapped, annoyed. Dispatch hesitated. "Officer Collins, you need probable cause." "Send a unit," he barked. "Now!" He cuffed Cameron's wrists too tight, ignoring his protests. "My dad's expecting me," Cameron said, voice shaking. "Please let me call him." "No phone calls," Collins said. "That's not legal," Cameron whispered. Collins smirked. "You don't get to tell me what's legal." Meanwhile, Elias Brooks, 22 years of federal service, bureau legend, the quiet hammer behind several dismantled crime rings, was sitting at his desk going through case files when his phone buzzed. A message from Cameron. "Leaving practice now? Be home soon." That was 32 minutes ago. Cameron should have been home already. 5 minutes late? Normal. 10 minutes late? Maybe he stopped for food. 30 minutes late? Elias felt something he rarely felt. Unease. He called Cameron. No answer. He texted. No reply. His stomach tightened. He stood up, grabbed his keys, and left the house, a trained instinct telling him something was wrong. Back at the scene, people had gathered. A woman recording with her phone. A man yelling, "He's just a kid!" Two teens on bikes watching nervously. Cameron tried to keep his voice steady. "Sir, please." "You're hurting my wrists." "Stop resisting!" Collins snapped. "I'm not resisting." Collins pushed him harder against the car. "That's resisting," the crowd murmured angrily. The woman recording stepped closer. "Officer, why are you arresting a minor?" "What did he do?" Collins barked. "Ma'am, back up!" She didn't. Because everyone could clearly see. Cameron wasn't a threat. He wasn't aggressive. He was a scared kid who kept saying the same thing. Please, sir. I didn't do anything. Cameron saw his father's black SUV turn the corner. Dad! He shouted. Elias's heart dropped the moment he saw his son. Cuffed. Shaking, pressed against a police cruiser. He stepped out of the SUV with a calmness that wasn't calm at all. What is going on here? Elias asked, voice low. Collins turned. Sir, step back. This is an active investigation. That investigation involves my son. Collins blinked. Your what? My son, Elias repeated. Collins frowned, confused. Well, maybe you can teach him not to commit crimes. A collective gasp went through the crowd. Elias stared at the officer, not angry, not yelling, just looking at him the way a surgeon looks at an open wound. Uncuff him, Elias said. No, he's being detained. For what? Elias asked quietly. He fits the description. Of who? Suspect of a break-in. Evidence? I don't need evidence, Collins said. I have suspicion. The woman recording burst out laughing. Oh, he's done. But Collins didn't understand how done he truly was. Not yet. Backup arrived. 2 units, lights flashing. Sergeant Miller stepped out. What's happening, Collins? I detained this juvenile for questioning. Miller looked at Cameron's backpack, gym clothes, sweat-soaked jersey. And what's the probable cause? He looked suspicious. Miller stiffened. Suspicious at how? Collins shrugged. You know. Miller's jaw tightened. No, I don't. Why is he in cuffs? Because he resisted. I did not resist, Cameron cried. Elias finally spoke again. Sergeant, please uncuff my son. Miller paused. You're the parent? Yes. Name? Elias Brooks. The sergeant froze. Then his eyes widened. Wait, Elias Brooks? Collins frowned. Who the hell is that? Miller slowly turned toward him, color draining from his face. Collins, that's Special Agent Elias Brooks, SAC of the Regional FBI Division. Silence. Total silence. The crowd went dead still. Cameron stared. Collins swallowed hard. You're FBI? Collins whispered. No, Elias said. I run the FBI office for this entire region. Cameron lifted his cuffed wrists. Can I go home now? Miller barked. Collins, uncuff him immediately. Collins's fingers shook as he unlocked the cuffs. Cameron exhaled in relief and rubbed his wrists. Elias stepped closer to his son. You okay? He asked softly. Cameron nodded. Yeah. Elias nodded back, then turned toward Collins, and the change in his face was unmistakable. He wasn't a worried father anymore. He was a federal agent assessing a threat. Officer Collins, Elias said. You violated at least 7 procedural policies in the last 10 minutes. Collins stammered. I thought he was a suspect. You thought wrong, and you escalated force against a minor with no cause. You detained him illegally. You denied his request to call a parent. You used racial profiling to justify a false arrest. Miller looked sick. Elias continued. You put your hands on my son. You humiliated him. You endangered him, and you abused your authority in public. Cameron whispered. Dad, it's okay. Elias shook his head. No, it's not. The sergeant stepped forward. Agent Brooks, we will open an internal review. This won't be internal, Elias said. Collins stumbled back. Sir, please. You treated my son like a criminal, Elias continued calmly. You terrorized him. You tried to intimidate him. And you did it because of the color of his skin. Collins's knees weakened. Sir, I'm sorry. You will be, Elias said. And he meant every word. An official police cruiser drove Collins back to the station, not as an officer on duty, but as an officer under investigation. The moment the department realized who Cameron's father was, the dominoes fell quickly. By Monday morning, Collins was placed on unpaid leave. An internal affairs investigation opened. The police chief issued a public apology. The mayor requested a federal review. The body cam footage, the crowd's videos included, was collected. Local news channels ran the story. Community activists organized meetings. But the real storm came from the FBI. Elias didn't ask for special treatment. He simply filed a report with the exact details of what happened. And when an FBI division leader files a civil rights violation complaint, the entire system listens. Within 72 hours, the DOJ notified the police department. Federal investigators interviewed witnesses. Collins' previous stops were reviewed. 3 more questionable arrests emerged. One officer anonymously confirmed, Collins has a history. Collins wasn't just in trouble. He was done. They called Elias in for a meeting. Police chief, internal affairs, mayor, legal counsel. Collins sat at the far end of the table, shaking. The chief began, Agent Brooks, we want to express our deepest apologies. Elias raised a hand. I'm not here for apologies. The chief swallowed. I'm here, Elias continued, to make sure what happened to my son never happens to anyone else's child. The mayor nodded. Yes, of course. So let's begin, Elias said. Then he laid out everything. Illegal detainment, excessive force, racial profiling, violation of juvenile protocol, denial of parental contact, misuse of authority, false statements to dispatch. When he finished, the room was silent. Collins finally spoke, voice trembling. I didn't know he was your son. Elias stared at him with cold disbelief. That's the problem, he said. You shouldn't have to know who he belongs to in order to treat him like a human being. Collins broke. Tears, shaking hands. The realization that the badge he used to bully, others had become a spotlight exposing him. The chief cleared his throat. Officer Collins, you are hereby terminated. Effective immediately. Elias stood. No, he said. Not immediately. The room froze. Elias turned to Collins. You will personally deliver a written apology to my son, and you will sign it in front of me. Collins nodded weakly. Yes, sir. 3 days later, Collins arrived at the Brooks home, without a badge, without a uniform, without authority. Cameron answered the door. Collins handed him a folded letter. Cameron opened it. Inside, written shakingly, I wrongfully detained you without cause. My actions were discriminatory, unprofessional, and harmful. You did nothing wrong. You deserved better. I apologize. Cameron read it quietly, then nodded once. Thank you, he said. Not because he forgave him, but because he understood something Collins never did. Real strength isn't in power. It's in restraint. A week later, Cameron and his dad sat on the porch, watching fireflies blink across the yard. Cameron said softly, Dad, does it always have to be like this? Elias put a hand on his son's shoulder. No, he said. That's why we fight back, so it doesn't keep happening. They sat in silence, father and son, the weight of the world lifting just a little. Not because justice is perfect, but because on that day, justice showed up. If you believe people who abuse power should always face consequences, then smash that like button and subscribe to Mr. Miza Stories, where justice hits different when the truth comes to light.